So whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Just hit stop.
I wonder if this is the same room they have the council meeting tonight in.
I think it will be.
Yeah, I gotta come back for that too. Yeah. Yeah, it's AI data centers, stuff like that.
When did we start streaming traffic?
Well, my grandson's very interested, so he's coming with JJ. Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was zoning.
Yes, for sure.
This is my first, not me? No.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, this is before the pandemic. Thank you. But it's funny.
Sometimes I don't like people why do I have to save all these trees? Because they don't know trees instead of almost. So, yeah, it is wild. The drainage is
Yeah, that's probably the, especially the two, luckily, I mean, unfortunately, Ben and Bill gets like, I feel like Kim gets stripped out, she's like,
we need different things.
she's like, well, I told her, I said, we need a new moniker next time, cause that's what Kyle's around the person, next time, like Ben needs to have a name that starts with an L for Lancaster, and Bill can start with an R for
That's
Hello.
good.
Hello. Have fun.
Call Bill by his last name, which is Frederick. So that's just
Yeah, yeah.
I guess they both can be first names. One or
Even our loan officer, which I bet check it out, like chili, like. My son's at national, he's 13 months, 14 months old, and my brother wanted to name, my brother's a friend anyway, Benjamin, well, they wanted to name it Ben, and they wanted to name Benjamin, they were like, oh, there's too many Benjamins, so they named him Bennett. They were like, then he can still go by Ben, but they were like, we know a ton of, yeah. Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
I'm going to call the Traffic Commission meeting for July 14th to order. We're waiting for one more member for a quorum, so we're going to focus on things that do not need to be voted on initially. So we're not going to hit the meetings first. We're going to start with reports out. Mindy? This memorandum is up. Oh, we have a quorum. Not a problem. We just started. Thank you.
I am sorry.
No. So now we can go back to the original agenda, and we're looking for review of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We have a very heavy agenda today, but there's a lot of stuff that's very important to all of us that we want to go through. So we're going to be as efficient and effective as possible. Do not hesitate to ask questions, but we may be as brief as practical to get through. So we're going to start with staff project updates. Emma Ham with RPP pilot program update. If you've just come in, please
sign
make a
in.
point of. Oh, okay. That's okay.
All right. Hello, Emma Hum, Transportation Planner in the Department of Public Works. So the first is just a residential permit program update. We were residential permit parking update, sorry. So we were trying to get permits going in the southeast over several blocks. The deadline was July 1st. We only got 42% of household signatures, so that is not moving forward. So at a hopefully less busy traffic commission meeting, we will talk about some options for moving the residential permit parking amendments in maybe a different direction.
And my understanding of that is that we want to take the advantage of being given the authority to work out some different options as an opportunity to look at a variety of options, even if this particular part of the pilot, which was the sign-up part, was not as successful as we would liked it to be. And by having less than 50%, it really does not portend well for us to go forward. And I do want to say to the public, the 50% was with a lot of hand-holding by members of council, by community leaders, going door to door several times a month, sometimes several times a week, to try to get as many signatures as possible. So it is not because there was not enough effort, but either the messaging needs to be improved upon and/or the benefit to the possible participants needs to be understood differently. And I think that's part of what we want to explore.
Right. So there will be more to come on that. And just in terms of upcoming events where staff will be available to talk about a variety of city and street improvement projects, the Mayor's Town Hall meeting coming up on the 22nd at McCaskey High School, outdoors for all day, Saturday, July 25th at Reservoir Park. I think we're going to be able to talk maybe very preliminarily about the Reservoir Park planning effort that's going to be getting underway here in a couple of months. National Night Out on Tuesday, August 4th. There are several events happening that I'm aware of, but so keep an eye out for those. And then the Safe Routes to School open house for projects in the area of Carter and McRae Elementary. So that includes Conestoga Street and Farnham Street. That's going to be Tuesday, August 11th at Carter and McRae. Thank you.
Well, that was efficient. Are there any questions at the commission level?
May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
We are going to be holding a cookout with the police department on August 1st on Garden Court Apartments. The city of Lancaster is joining us to talk more about the speed bumps and stuff like that. Maybe we can open more the event and the information table from the city.
Yeah, so I think we actually just learned about that event today. And so we were hoping maybe we could talk, because we have a neighborhood slow zones program, as you are aware. And so that might be a good chance to talk to the neighbors about the neighborhood slow zones program, which is just, starting to put some speed humps and some traffic calming into the neighborhoods. Yes, thank you.
Thanks to you for all the effort that we are doing.
Very good. You're very, very welcome. Any other comments or questions from the commission? From the public? If you're speaking from the public, please come to the microphone. Let us know your name and the block of your residence, and then speak.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Jason Schultz, 800 block of Buchanan Avenue. Just a comment on the RPP program, knowing the beta test didn't go through with the 50% approval. Knowing that we're getting a new process for any new requests or existing requests to consider parking restrictions or tighter permits for residents and businesses, do you have any recommendations in the meantime while a new process is being established?
Jason, unfortunately, I don't right now. I don't want to say too much because I don't know.
We're exploring a lot of things. We recognize that we've maintained an informal moratorium for a very long period of time, and interestingly, we're finding that in some cases that has created more challenges, but it also has allowed us to understand differently what is going on in the different neighborhoods. What are some of the pressures that are creating the parking challenges, et cetera. And in the meantime, with the Safe Streets for All program and many of the other improvements that have been made in the public right-of-way infrastructure, we're finding a tidal shift in the perception of the nature of the problem. It does not change the fact that there are nowhere near enough parking spaces in the public right-of-way for those who need them, but we're also finding that in some cases, the thing that had promoted parking, RPP in certain areas in the first place, does not exist anymore. And so we're wanting to explore not only how do we broaden and make it more available, but are there options where, based on what we've already learned, can we remove it in some cases and or think about it very, very differently? Is there a way of incentivizing it? Is there a way of thinking about how we talk about it and experience it a little bit differently? And we're in very early phases of that discussion. We had hoped that both what was going on in Southeast and Northwest would have been the opportunities to explore these options physically. But when you have fewer than 50% of the people in favor of any kind of change like that, we didn't want to impose on that, on those populations. And we recognize we need to move quickly. We cannot just have an unmet need sitting out there without addressing it in one form or another.
Excuse me, Director Campbell, can I add something?
Yes, please.
At city council level, we are making some conversations with some parking, so we are gonna keep you posted on that when we have everything finalized.
And are you at liberty to talk a little bit about what that means? No. Okay. Very good. Okay, let's go into the action agenda. Old business. We're item 40-2025. Consider the request of Pamela Dinteman to add an all-way stop at West Lemon Street and North Mary Street. Ms. Dinteman, are you present?
Yes.
Please come to the microphone. Again, indicate your name, the block of your residence.
Pamela Dinteman, 500 block of Lemon Street.
Okay.
And I brought this to the attention from sitting on my porch and seeing so many near accidents, and then you all did the traffic report.
Okay. So we do have a report from Ben Hogan who can talk a little bit about what was learned. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we go into that report, though?
No, thank you.
Okay. Ben?
Good evening, commissioners, members of the public. Ben Hogan, Public Works Engineer for City of Lancaster. As you'll recall at the last meeting, we went over the study results for Mary and Lemon Street. We are recommending Traffic Commission approve always stop control at the intersection. So we have kind of tight bounds imposed by federal and state guidance for when we can implement always stops at an intersection. At this particular one, we reviewed it against all of those elements of study. And we found that this has a very, very high number of pedestrians crossing at the intersection, especially compared to similar intersections along Lemon Street, West Lemon Street in particular. It was having about 50% higher pedestrian volume in the PM peak hour. So based on that and the surrounding land uses, we recommend approval of always stop control at the intersection. If you decide to move forward with that, we will have city staff go out, implement those new restrictions or signage changes, and put flashing lights on the stop signs for at least 90 days to bring attention to the new change in the traffic pattern.
Can you talk a little bit more about what the 90-day experience would be like? Is that a matter for us to monitor and or to communicate, or primarily to communicate to the public what is coming and how the changes would affect them?
Sure. The primary purpose of that is really just to communicate the new change, bring attention to the new stop signs that are out there. We'll likely also put pavement markings down on the ground that say stop or stop ahead, similar to what we did at Race and Buchanan when that was transitioned from a traffic signal to an always stop. And we're required to leave those up for 90 days minimum, may leave it up for a little bit longer as needed, and then go back after a year or two, check the crash data, and see how the intersection has changed over time.
And if I remember correctly, this is a case where, although it is very similar in configuration to many other similar intersections, the compelling issue is the amount of pedestrian traffic, or are there other compelling issues
Yeah,
that influence your recommendation?
that primary issue when compared to other intersections that we've studied in the past across the city is really the land use around the intersection. So all four corners have commercial properties at them, have frequent pedestrian traffic going to and from businesses. And also this is on a designated bike route, so there's a higher number of bicyclists through the intersection as well. So considering both pedestrians and bicyclists being the most vulnerable road users, they would be the primary target of the safety improvement of having an all-way stop.
Are there other safety or enforcement issues to be aware of?
I don't believe so at this intersection. So we made quite a lot of changes back in 2023, 2024, when we installed the bike lane. We installed parking restrictions to kind of open up sight lines at the intersection and narrow those travel lanes to slow vehicles down. And I think this is one of the issues that has still cropped up after we made those changes and can hopefully be addressed by a new all-way stop.
Thank you very much for that report.
Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions from the commission, from members of the commission? Are there comments or questions from members of the public? Ms. Dintelman, does this address the concerns as you had represented them to us previously? So if there are no questions, we can entertain a motion.
Yeah, so moved to make a motion to approve 40/2025.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion carries. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
The next item under old business is item 17-2026. Consider the request of the City of Lancaster to designate Lemon Street from Lime Street to College Avenue and Buchanan Avenue from College Avenue to Race Avenue as a snow emergency route. Emma, would you like to describe?
Sure. So we discussed this at the previous Traffic Commission meeting as well, but it was brought to our attention by the streets crew, the staff who maintain the city streets, particularly during the snowstorms, that the Walnut Street bike lane and the Lemon Street bike lane looked very different during the last round of snow, because Walnut Street is a snow emergency route, and that allowed staff to completely clear out all of the snow from the bike lanes because all the vehicles are removed from the street, so they can dump all the snow in a truck and remove it. So we are proposing to make Lemon Street and potentially only the south side of Lemon Street where the bike lane runs, making that a snow emergency route, which would allow, again, staff to remove all of the snow from that path rather than sort of what happened last time. The bike path became a collection point for a lot of snow, and then it lingered even longer than the rest of snow. It got so deep that even our specialized equipment couldn't move through to get the snow out. And that also causes barriers for people, to be able to reach their cars, their vehicles. So that's what we're proposing is the Lemon Street and Buchanan Avenue, the south side, as snow emergency routes. And again, snow emergency routes typically are only declared when we have we're expecting more than 8 inches of snow. So I think in the last 5 years, we've had maybe 2 such occurrences. So it's not something that happens very often. But I think when you get to that level of snow, it would really be helpful.
And other advantages that you did not necessarily describe are that for those who have vehicles, it means that they have not only the ability to put those vehicles in the parking garages or have first dibs, if you will, to do that, but also their streets are cleared first when the snow emergency is lifted, and therefore, even though they've been inconvenienced by having to remove their cars, they have parking available to them. The other advantage is, as you mentioned, that the bike infrastructure that we have invested in becomes available, at least on the east and westbound connectors, equally as a means of alternate transportation for the residents.
Correct. Yeah, thank you.
And you mentioned the maintenance requirements, and you've confirmed from our staff that we would be able to take care of this in an appropriate manner, similar to what's going on at Walnut Street.
Correct. Yep.
Are there any comments or questions from the commission regarding this proposal?
Yeah, on this snow emergency route, I'm thinking of doing both sides. That way you can clear both, because it is used by transit and you have emergency vehicles going both directions. So I would say to expand it to the north side too. That way you clear that thoroughfare.
If I remember correctly, were there some counts about the numbers of parking spaces that would be affected?
We did count, actually, Ian, our intern here, was able to help us with that. And he counted, I believe it was 159 parking spaces on the south side alone that would be impacted in a snow emergency situation. We can imagine it would be roughly double, maybe a little bit more on the north side.
And do we have a sense of how many are affected by the Walnut Street westbound connector?
We did not do parking counts for Walnut Street, no.
Okay.
I know that I had also asked the parking authority whether they had a sense of availability in the city parking garages, and my sense from Larry was that there is availability during snow emergencies at just about all garages with the exception of the North Queen Street lot. But other than that, there is capacity in those garages.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions regarding this proposal? Any further discussion about whether it should be just the south side versus both north and south side of Lemon Street?
I think it's acceptable to do both the north and south side.
Are there other comments or questions from the public regarding this proposal? Hearing none, we can entertain a motion.
Well, I would entertain to go so moved for 17/20/26 to make the Lemon Street and Buchanan, from Lime to College and Buchanan Avenue from College to Race as a snow emergency route. I'm going to say to add for both sides, both north and south side.
So there's been a motion. Is there a second?
I second with the amendment that he mentioned, both sides.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further comment or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank
you
you.
very, very much. And thank you again for the forward-looking aspect of addressing concerns that have been raised in other forums regarding not only access for the snow emergency routes, but access to maintenance of the active transportation infrastructure. The next item under old business is item 18-2026. Consider the request of Destiny Medina to add no commercial vehicle signs to the 100 block of North Franklin Street and East Chestnut Street. Ms. Medina? This is one, did you get a response from Ms. Medina that she was planning to be here?
I did not, and this would be her second meeting. She
Okay.
has not been at.
So, as is our practice from the past, if the person requesting it is not present so that we can talk to them about what the pros and cons of the issue are, after the second call with the second meeting without such an event, the issue die. Do we table it officially or do we just let it die? I'm looking to you, Dino, as our parliamentarian almost.
Well, since this is the second time that the person hasn't been here, it's generally, we deny the request. So I would make a motion to deny 18/20/26.
Second.
The motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. The last under old business is item 20-2026. Consider the request of Ashley Savakul for a traffic survey in the 1300 block of Union Street. Ms. Savakul? So this is a request for a traffic survey, which is a more of an administrative function and it would be information gathering. Is there a little bit more of my understanding of her request initially was that this was to see if there were traffic bumps that could be added, et cetera. Did you want to report out, even though Ms. Savakul is not present?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to speak on this. We did do a traffic study ahead of today's meeting, and we're able to collect that traffic data before school went out of session this summer. So this came before you last time in 2023 for a request from the residents for speed humps along this area. This is kind of a unique block in that it can be used as a cut through to get around Hamilton Elementary School, especially during congestion at arrival and dismissal. And there's concerns that with the new school district's plans to consolidate schools on that campus, that could lead to increased traffic in the future. So we collected traffic data at the same location as last time and found that there's relatively low traffic volume. It's around 750 vehicles per day. And the speed data from that study was the same as last time. 85% of vehicles were traveling at or below 25 miles an hour, posted speed limit. So the data doesn't seem to reflect a speeding concern in this neighborhood. There might be some outliers there. We did notice, however, that there was an imbalance in traffic. Far more traffic heads in, I guess it would be the northbound direction than the southbound direction, which could show there's some cut-through traffic coming through. But Union does have good connectivity compared to Wabank, which is the larger parallel block. We also reviewed crash data along the 1300 block. We found that in the past 5 years, there's been 2 reportable crashes along the corridor. Both of those were at the curve. There's a 90-degree curve along 1300 block of Union Street. One of those was before you in 2023, and one of them was after. And if you recall, at the last time this was heard, we installed signage for the curve to warn of the curve and put in a 15-mile-an-hour advisory speed limit there. So the latest crash occurred while that signage was in place. We do have the neighborhood slow zone program that we had discussed, where we ranked all of the streets in the city for applicability of traffic calming measures based on crash history, proximity to pedestrian generators like schools and parks, and community demographics. This neighborhood in particular was kind of a medium-high ranking, not within the first 2 phases of the project that we have planned, but this has good potential for a future phase of the project as we continue sort of a data-driven approach to figure out where to put those measures. So at this time, we're recommending denial of speed humps along the corridor, with bearing in mind that this could be a good candidate in the future.
Thank you very much. You say a good candidate in the future. Mm-hmm. It's also the case that with the consolidation that's being considered, is it not likely that there would be traffic studies and additional information gathered to determine what appropriate end solution should be as well?
Yes, that's still an early part of the process, but I believe that a traffic impact study would be required as a part of that consolidation. And as a part of that, we would look at traffic safety measures in the area and see if the network is performing adequately, especially with the extra traffic. So there could be traffic calming measures installed as a part of that project as well, especially if there's concerns about diversion around the school.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from members of the commission? Are there comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, we're willing to entertain a motion.
We'll just make a motion for 2026 to be denied.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion about the item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we enter into new business. Item 25 of 2026, consider the request of Paul Austin of J. Walter Miller Company to install no parking signs at the corner of North Ann Street and East Fulton Street. Mr. Austin? Oh, this is one that has been tabled? The person in question is not able to attend this evening, and he's asked that it be tabled, so we just move to table it until the next meeting?
Just we'll make a motion to table 25, 2026.
There's been a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Tabled. Thank you very much. The next item is item 26-2026, considering the request of Jason Schultz to move the end of the bike lane in the 800 block of Buchanan Avenue from 818 Buchanan Avenue to 828 Buchanan Avenue. Mr. Schultz, and I believe you're here for the next two. as
Yeah, number
well?
3 can probably be moved on. It's the RPP comment that we kind of just discussed in hopes of expediting. So for the first one here, the moving of the bike lane where it still be bike friendly, currently going eastbound on Buchanan Avenue, it's a single way, but right where the bike lane ends and where it becomes a turn lane and then a continued eastbound, it cuts over at the same exact time where cyclists are running. So it's like a blind spot, and then cars are merging to continue eastbound traffic or hit College Avenue. So it's I've seen several near misses where it's just like where that corner car, that white Honda. So everyone starts merging to the southbound, and then that's when the cyclists appear. So you'll still have that a little bit if you moved it half a block down before the alley. However, there's less of a chance for a car to merge into the cyclist at the same time of visibility.
And when you're talking about the alley, I'm missing it in the photo. Is it the alley that's behind these cars?
Correct. Yeah. So where that blue box is, it's a little library. Yeah. So right before there, there's still a little hidden. However, there's less cars merging into the alley at the same time going eastbound, where again, because of the turn lane going northbound on College, it's a merge of a vehicle and a bike at the same time.
And can you scan further east on Buchanan, Mindy?
Right.
Yeah. Oops. Kind of overshot. Yeah, it's difficult to get it positioned properly.
Right.
Now, this is one where we also did some study. Is there some commentary from the staff?
Hi there. So not an official study. I think our sense with this one is that if you were to remove the bike lane further back, you're really just elongating the lanes where the cars are building up, and that potentially gives people more space to speed. When you have the bike lane in place, you're narrowing the lane widths. This was just obviously a relatively recent project, so we sort of felt that there wasn't really cause to change things right now. There also don't seem to be really any crashes occurring in this area. So from a safety perspective, we were not necessarily seeing the benefits. Did you have anything to add to that, Ben? No, I think that was a good summary. Okay.
Is it that if you zoom further west so that you can see there's if I remember correctly, there's a sign here. No, Go back. Go forward. Back. To the, at the very right, what I want to see is this, what's on this sign that's, there's this sign that has the bike lane ends, but there's another sign further up.
Negative. Just it's all lanes.
May use full lane. So, are there sufficient markings for people to understand what's going on there?
Happy to speak to that. So I think generally accepted best practice for design and bike facilities is that if you were to unfortunately have to merge with traffic, you would have the bikes may use full lane sign and then sharrows or shared lane markings put on the ground at the same merge point.
Which is what we have here.
Yes, that's what's been provided here. We also have conflict markings, the green markings on the approach to indicate to cyclists that they're entering an area of conflict. So it was designed with, I think, the best for what we have available. It would be best if the bike lane could continue through the intersection, but with the turn lane, we weren't able to remove that turn lane as a part of the project because of kind of the skew as Buchanan and Lemon combine at College Avenue. So we had to have bikes merge with traffic, but like Emma mentioned, this is typically accepted design practice for engineering standards of bike lanes. And I think we're a bit hesitant this early on in the project's life to make changes to that.
And you say hesitant this early on in the project. What might be an appropriate amount of time to think and or reassess what's going on?
So I think typically with these projects, we see about a 1 to 2 year lag of crash data being available for anything that's occurred. We would certainly also not want a crash to occur and be able to know this ahead of time that this is a problem, but that's typically how we would see these concerns come about, or if there's a large number of cyclists complaining about close calls they've had at the intersection or at that merge point, then we would certainly review in more detail and consider otherwise. So I think typically we're looking back at our projects around 3 to 4 years after implementation, so we have a couple years of crash data and feedback to look back on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions from the commission? Comments or questions from Mr. Schultz?
No, it makes sense.
Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, we're able to entertain a motion related to this. I'm hearing, Emma, that you say that engineering is not supportive of making these kinds of changes, the changes that were requested.
Yes.
So we're willing to entertain a motion.
We'll entertain a motion to deny 26/20/26 until further details are available.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? When you say until further details are present, this is going towards what Ben had indicated of looking to 3 to 4 years of where there's crash data as well as commentary and input that may suggest looking at it differently. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion about this item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. That motion carries. The next item is considering the request of Jason Schultz to install a speed bump between Northwest Avenue and College Avenue.
Yeah, and just for the record, it's Northwest End, in case there's confusion. Just further down the block. Much like the previous approval of the stop signs at Mary and Lemon, it's a high foot traffic area. And so once you're going eastbound at the three-way stop on Northwest End and Buchanan, headed eastbound because of the street light and the turning lane, as soon as cars get through the intersection, there's kind of a race to get the green light, as one can imagine. And so having a speed bump or two or a speed hump any of the sort, just to slow down traffic as they're approaching College Avenue to go northbound or southbound for that matter.
This looks like a lot of this infrastructure was relatively recently installed as well. Do you remember when this was installed?
Yes, this was all part of our eastbound connector project, the bike lane that was done back in 2023. Yes.
Are there incidents that you're aware of, Mr. Schultz, that is bringing this to our attention?
I'm aware of 4 or 5 between myself getting a couple car accidents and or my neighbors. I wouldn't necessarily have to have it's a strong correlation to the speeding, but it's not creating a very friendly pedestrian intersection, much like Mary and Lemon.
Did staff review this one? Do you want to give a report out on what you learned?
Yeah, so like the last item, we have not really reviewed this in much detail yet. There are a number of treatments we included when the eastbound connector project was done along Buchanan and Lemon Streets, like narrowing the travel lanes to slow vehicle speeds and safety treatments at the intersections. I think what may be best is to do a speed study in the area, set out road tubes and collect data to see the actual speed of vehicles traveling through there, and then also do a review of crash data to see if speed humps would likely be able to discourage future crashes from occurring if they have.
Mr. Schultz talks about how this is very similar to the intersection of Mary and Lemon.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same or is it distinct?
I would think the intersection of West End and Buchanan is very similar, except for the land use pattern. West End and Buchanan is more so driven by the park traffic, people entering Buchanan Park, whereas Mary and Lemon is more so the residential traffic and also people accessing the businesses at that intersection. So it's a bit different, but a location that's been an always stop for a good amount of time. But if I'm hearing correctly, it sounds like the issue might not be at the intersection itself, but more so mid-block as you travel between West End and College Avenue.
So, given that information, is there something that you would suggest regarding how to address this?
Yeah, I think a recommendation would be tabling pending further study, do a traffic study for crash history and speed data along the corridor and see if it would support the installation of speed humps, much like 1300 block of Union Street that was the first item on our agenda.
Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the commission?
If I may, this is going to impact the traffic as the people gets to a traffic light. I don't know if you are aware of that or have taken that into consideration, because then the traffic jam in that intersection with the speed bumps is going to be a nightmare.
So
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
in many ways, that's supporting the idea of studying to see what the impacts might be of any kind of intervention.
Yes, sir.
Are there other comments or questions from the commission at the commission level? Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, we're willing to entertain a motion.
We'll make a motion to table 2027, 2026.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Is there any further discussion, like the addition of doing some study to try to figure out the speeds and the other traffic patterns that are going on in that area?
Sure. I think we can definitely look at the operations of the intersection of College and Buchanan. I think from engineering practice, speed humps typically don't influence the capacity of the intersection, but we can run the model for a slightly lower vehicle speed and see if that changes how it's operating and make sure it's still operating properly and efficiently.
Okay, so are you willing to have this motion with that, with the codicil of doing that kind of review
Yeah, we should review the intersection, because too, also not only, for traffic-wise, but also pedestrian-wise, because it is used for, to and from, Reynolds Junior High. And, also we have the traffic that goes to the North Museum, et cetera, and now with West Art. So we should be looking at that intersection.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. I mean, let me ask, are you consenting to the codicil that it's to do the study as well? To
Yes, I do.
Not to do quote unquote a study, but to examine and to collect more data about the trends on that street.
Yes, I do agree, because we have to remember that F&M College is in that zone as well. So there's a lot of pedestrian traffic from students in there as well.
Very good. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any further comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. The last item, just to make sure that it's ticked off.
Sure, yeah.
Item 2826 considers the request of Mr. Schultz for consideration to add RPP to the south side parking on the 800 block of Buchanan Avenue.
Yeah, so I understand, like, hey, we're pausing the petition program on the south side of the 800 block of Buchanan Avenue. There's 9 residents, so a 50% signage rate isn't as vast, obviously, as like certain neighborhoods. So I just take the consideration of that, but I understand the broader scope that they're looking for to have a more cohesive macro level strategy
So you
in that
would-
area.
So given that context, you would not be opposed to us tabling this item?
I mean, personally, I would like to have a decision, but I understand the reason for it. And again, I think just on the south end of it, just because I've seen similar approvals happen in areas like just mentioning the east end of Grand Street where Horse Inn is at, or where Luca's at on James Street and Mary. They have the approval that we're seeking, and then the business that's and different businesses of all the places we mentioned at the intersection have much heavier capacity than the current approved request. I think it's worth considering for 9 residents, but I understand again the macro
Yeah.
zoom out of that.
Yeah, we're really,
Yeah,
I'm wanting to encourage us to be looking at the larger impact and some of the causes of the parking challenges, and be able to find more larger, more universal solutions, and not use this tool in the way that we've used it in the past.
I gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
So might we have a motion to table this item? Or not?
Would it make more sense to do a motion to deny it at this point, and then as the new information is
Yes,
provided?
that's correct. It would be best
I'll second that.
to deny it. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Schultz, I want to thank you also for bringing many of these things to our attention. I know that often one feels like a curmudgeon or wanting to fix things that may or may not necessarily need fixing, but it's very much appreciated by all of us who want a safer public right-of-way on all dimensions, pedestrian, bicycling, vehicular, and everything. So I tremendously appreciate that, and I say that to everyone. We appreciate when these issues are raised in the way that they are.
I appreciate the opportunity. So cheers. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 29-2026. Consider the request of Deacon Mike Oles to move the no parking sign from the intersection of Wheatland Avenue due to site view issues. Deacon Oles?
First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. And Yeah, so if you can take a look at the intersection of West End and Wheatland. I
Can
don't know,
you
do we have a
indicate
way
the,
to-
can you indicate the block of your residence?
Oh, I'm sorry, I live in Manheim Township.
Okay, thank
So
you.
the reason that we're downtown, my wife and I, we do Meals on Wheels 3 days a week. So we're downtown a lot ever since COVID started. So, and we appreciate everything that's being done to try to improve traffic situation and sensitivity to all these different issues. It's amazing.
Thank
But
you.
the intersection of Wheatland and West End, there's parking on West End right up to the intersection of Wheatland. And so on the 1st of May, as I was coming down Wheatland to take the left onto West End, you notice there's a boulevard there. So I don't know, is it allowable to call that center where that boulevard is the suicide lane, you know? Because it's a dangerous thing. So, by the way, I've never had an accident to my fault for the last 66 years. So, but this one was my fault because we have stop sign there in Wheatland. And then as I try to enter the intersection of West End, I didn't see a car coming in from the left. So, but you can park on West End right up to the intersection of Wheatland. And so as I was going to try to cross that intersection, the first thing that really crossed my mind was the center island, because there's so many different possibilities of people entering that center island. So I quickly looked to the left. I saw no vehicle coming. And then as I pulled out, sure enough, there was one right there. But there's a line of sight problem. So because people can park right up to Wheatland on West End.
Is this the best view to see the situation you're describing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So you can park, the parking sign, you notice there on West End, there's a no parking from there to the corner. But that's really very close. And so when I pulled out, there was a car there. There was already, it was a low, it was a Toyota, a 2000 Toyota. So it was a very low profile car. All right. And she collided with me, but it was my error because I pulled out, but I didn't see it. So so then we had a discussion with the police and so forth, and several of the neighbors said that there were other accidents at that intersection. And so when I looked at it, from a layman's point of view, I was thinking to myself, if they just took the parking spot or took the parking sign and brought it back on West End, maybe 2 or 3 spots, there'd be a much better chance of but anyway, so if somebody could take a look at that, that would be greatly appreciated. And, with all the driving that we do downtown, and there's all the poles and the different things.
Yes.
You've done really phenomenal job of trying to make it as safe as possible, so we appreciate everything you're doing.
We appreciate when you make those kinds of comments because we often get a lot of guff, but we do see the positive impact in terms of the speeds being reduced, in terms of safety for pedestrians,
Yeah,
et cetera. So it's really tremendously appreciated.
thank you.
Ben, is this a case where staff looked at the situation as well? And again, one thing I want to state is that by making these applications early enough, it means that we often have the time to have our staff take a look at the situation before the traffic commission meeting, not defer until later. So Ben?
Yeah, that's definitely always appreciated. So we did a study at this intersection of sight distance and crash history. I can start with crash history. We looked at the reportable crash data that's through PennDOT's database, and what they consider a reportable crash is if a vehicle is towed from the scene or if an ambulance is called to the scene. Per those records, there was one incident at the intersection within the past 5 years. However, it didn't involve a vehicle on Wheatland. It was 2 vehicles on West End Avenue. But we did look at the site distance, and that is a challenge, especially given the slope. You're on a downhill grade on West End coming toward Wheatland, on the near side where you would have the worst visibility. So that current no parking sign there is 25 feet back from the intersection. And just to remind you, the challenge we have with parking restrictions, normally we can do this administratively because it's already restricted by vehicle code. However, since there's no crosswalk, there's no traffic control device approaching this intersection, legally you would be permitted to park right up to the intersection unless we had traffic commission approval to remove that. So when we looked at sight lines at the intersection, we think if we were to bump that no parking sign back an additional 15 feet to create a total of 40 feet or about 2 car spaces worth of space on the north side of the intersection, that would provide adequate sight lines. And then also looking at the south side of that intersection, right now you're permitted to park right up to it. If we were to remove 1 vehicle space there, the difference being since that's an uphill grade compared to downhill, that would also provide a noticeable improvement for vehicles making a left and looking to the right as well. So, yes.
So if I understand correctly, from what we're looking at on the photograph, it would be extending 15 feet to the left of that existing sign, or approximately where that white car is.
Yes.
The white car is probably in the carriageway.
About 1 car length. And this is always a balance between maintaining on-street parking and maximizing our sight lines at the intersections. We think that would be a fair balance, and see how that would improve with time, if there's any crash history after that change is made. And then if so, we can continue to review and see if it should be bumped back even further.
And then if you can scan, yes, the place that you're looking for 1 car length removed would be where the Prius is?
Yeah, the white car in that image to the right of the stop sign. So right now you'd be permitted to park up to the corner. This would bump it back 1 car space or 20 feet to provide a bit better sight lines for vehicles that are turning left and need to check across the median for oncoming traffic as well. So our recommendation would be 40 feet restriction on the north side and a 40-foot or a 20-foot restriction on the south side.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions from the commission regarding the recommendation, or regarding the situation and then the recommendation by staff?
I just have one question. Is that just going to be signage without delineators or anything?
I was thinking just signage for now. Yeah.
I agree, excuse me. I agree with the engineer because we are experiencing a big parking shortage in the area. So I agree with the 15 feet that you are proposing.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions at the commission level? Further comments or questions at the public level? Deacon Oles, is this addressing the concerns as you had raised them to your satisfaction?
Yes, that's absolutely amazing. I would just ask one thing, okay, if the parking spot is going to be removed, don't tell them that a deacon from the Catholic Church, because we're trying to increase our enrollment, okay? Thank you.
Very good. Hearing no further comments, we are open to a motion.
Make a motion to approve 2026 with the expanding the north side from 25 to 40 feet, and then south side taking the 20 feet of parking.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further comment at the commission level? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much, Deacon. The next item on the action agenda is item 30-2026, considering the request of John Hershey to present land development plans for 502 West Walnut Street. John, great to see you again.
Good to be here. Good to be with all of you. The site that we're talking about this afternoon is bounded by 3 streets, West Walnut Street, obviously one-way westbound, North Mary Street, one-way northbound, and then Alley 98 Northwest, which is a 10-foot wide public right-of-way that adjoins our southern boundary. Many of you will remember the former use of this building, G.E. Richards. Before that, it was the Center for the Blind, the precursor to the present-day Vision Corps, and prior to that, it was the Walnut Street School. Sadly, it's been vacant for nearly 2 decades, blighted for the past 5 years, certified as blighted property. I and some others are planning to transform it into 7 multifamily mixed income residential units. And at present, there is no off-street parking on the site. We do not want to be a contributor to the parking shortage that was noted earlier. So we are proposing 6 off-street vehicular parking spaces on the backside of the site, and as well as bike parking and encouraging use of public transit among the residents, of whom I hope to be one once the project is completed. The focus of our discussion today is really primarily off of Alley 98. Can we navigate around to North Mary? First of all, I'll just point out, as part of the proposed redevelopment, we're removing an existing loading area, which you see there in that image, actually returning one on-street parking space by taking away the loading area, which is just off to the right of this particular image.
So for clarity, this 1.5-story addition would be removed?
So half of the 1.5-story addition will be removed, improving sight lines.
Okay.
The half that has the white door, the southern half, will be removed. The half that you see there with the windows will be retained and converted to one of the 7 units, and we're actually going to build above it as well. But the loading area that you see just to the left of that 1964 addition will go away. That'll be a new walkway coming into a new entrance lobby space for the residents to utilize. And there where you see the depressed curb between the 2 cars, that will be returned to a standard curb and an on-street parking space. But with the removal, if we go back to the alley at this point, with the removal of that southern half of the 1964 addition, we will be improving sight distances for those who are leaving the alley, pulling out onto North Mary. You'll be able to see pedestrians that are walking southbound along the North Mary Street sidewalk much better. There will be 6 proposed off-street parking spaces, including 1 accessible parking space. 3 of those will be here in the area where the brick building is shown. If we can go back down the alley a bit farther, the other 3 will be, as you approach that utility pole, which we're going to relocate, they'll be in the rear yard space that you see in the image in front of you. We are proposing, we presented a sketch plan to city staff back in April. We then met with our neighbors on May 2nd, a little backyard gathering on a Saturday morning, presented our vision. No one threw anything at us. In fact, we got a round of applause from the neighbors because most of them are tired of experiencing this blighted property next door. Our next stop was then with the zoning hearing board in mid-May because we were seeking a special exception for the conversion of a non-residential building to residential use, but also reduction in the required access drive width for the 6 proposed off-street parking spaces. As I mentioned, the alley is currently only 10 feet wide. We're proposing to keep it at 10 feet where the sidewalk, the North Mary sidewalk crosses over the alley so that we continue to have a relatively short pedestrian crossing distance.
Mindy, could you go back to the intersection of the alley and Mary Street? Yeah.
So where the sidewalk intersects that alley, we'll keep that at 10 feet, but then immediately where the brick building begins, we will widen it to 15.5 feet, which is approximately the same width that our neighbors farther down the alley have to access their garages. 15.5 feet is tight and compact in an urban area. We recognize that, but it allows us to retain more of this existing building so we can get one more unit. It also allows us to preserve the only existing tree on the site that is in good condition, as well as have an overall reduction in impervious coverage. So the zoning hearing board, I believe it was May 18th, granted that variance, as well as the special exception. But as I understand it from the review comments we received from city staff from our April sketch plan review, I'm here today to talk about the alley width once again, but also the fact that the proposed off-street parking will be within 50 feet of the intersection of the alley at North Mary Street. So where the brick building is, the nearest parking space to North Mary will be set back 5 feet with a planted area. The plantings in that space will be lower than 30 inches, again, due to concerns for site distances. But that still puts the easternmost parking space within 50 feet of that intersection. And I understand that coupled with the reduced access drive width is why we need to seek Traffic Commission approval.
Is there a drawing or a sketch of?
Yes, so last month I submitted a detailed project narrative along with an existing conditions and demolition plan, a layout plan, and some turning diagrams that show access to each of the 6 off-street parking spaces. So in this particular sketch, thank you. Let's look at that one first. North Mary Street is to the right. Alley 98 is toward the bottom of the image. You can see the cluster of 3 off-street parking spaces closest to North Mary, and then a cluster of another 3 western parking spaces, including the accessible space. You can also see how the garages of the neighboring properties to the west are located. We're basically replicating a similar situation with access to the off-street parking. Ours will not be undercover. It'll be open air parking. But by having that width reduction, it allows us to preserve one existing locust tree and get one more unit in our mixed income multifamily residential project.
Okay, are there other things you wanted to share with us about the parking aspects of the Traffic Commission aspects?
I'm sure I probably forgot something, but I'm happy to take any questions at this point.
Okay, thank you very much then, John. Are there any comments or questions from the commission regarding this proposal? I have a question. You say that the length or the depth of the spaces is, you said 15 feet?
So the spaces themselves are 18 feet. What we're proposing is that the access way along the alley be widened from its current 10-foot width to a total width of 15.5 feet. So 10 feet remains within the public realm. The additional 5.5 feet would be on our property, so that the access way to those 18-foot long parking spaces would be 15.5 feet.
Okay, thank you. Ben, is this something that staff has reviewed as well?
We did take a look at the submission to Traffic Commission. Want to preface by saying it's an exciting project, so we're excited to see it come forward. We just have concerns about vehicle navigation in those parking areas. So I see the scope of the Traffic Commission being approving removal of the existing driveway apron that's on Mary Street, and then also approving parking accessed via public alley, which is sort of a driveway in itself, from public alley 98, I believe it was, 98 Northwest. The turning movements that were provided are very, very tight. It seemed to be slightly smaller than your typical passenger-sized vehicle. So our primary concern was just protecting the side of 242 North Mary Street, which vehicles would back toward, or I guess pull toward. And I believe when I was reviewing the narrative for the project, it had mentioned that vehicles have to back into the parking spaces to navigate that correctly. Is that correct?
It is correct. If you could go to the turning diagram that was submitted. So what is being shown here is that for each of the 6 parking spaces, we provide diagrams for how one enters the parking space and how one exits the parking space. And in each case, you're correct, one would back into those spaces. This is a standard size vehicle. Again, these are 18-foot long spaces. The car that's depicted there is approximately, I'm guessing, 15 feet in length. It's a compact, we acknowledge it's very compact. This is not a commercial access drive in Red Rose Commons where someone is coming in to park for the first time in a given parking space. These are spaces that will be used by residents on a daily basis. And if they have a vehicle that won't fit, they'll simply have to find an on-street parking space. It's a situation that occurs all across the city, and including the property that's immediately to the west of ours, where there's a garage that is set as far back as we're proposing these parking spaces. The trade-off is that with the compactness that we're proposing, we're able to save one tree. We're able to reduce the parking or the impervious coverage overall. And knowing that this is a situation that impacts the neighbors, we had a discussion with them about this very scenario and received their endorsement.
That's good to hear. In the memo we had provided to the Traffic Commission, we had recommended approval of the removal of the existing driveway apron and providing parking off of the public alley. We had just asked that the Commission consider further any restrictions on vehicle size accessing those areas to match the size that was shown in the turning diagrams. That can be regulated somehow. That size vehicle would be somewhere in between an oversized vehicle and a compact car. I don't know whether it would be appropriate to call it a compact space, because then the dimension requirements of those spaces would change to be smaller and might not quite be appropriate. But just looking for the right fit to ensure that vehicles are not too large parking in those areas and that it doesn't endanger the side of 242 North Mary Street that directly abuts the alley.
Thank you for that. I have a couple more questions, if you don't mind. It's interesting to me. It looks like the handicap space is the easiest to get into and out of when I look at these diagrams and the way that they're described. If I'm looking at it correctly, the handicap space is the one shown 3 down from in the left-hand column. And it seems to be the most spacious in terms of access. Is there a parking requirement because of the location of this site? Is there a parking requirement for the site?
So it's a murky area. This was also a topic of the mid-May zoning hearing board discussion, because the previous uses, public school, institutional vision center for the blind, and the office supply business had no off-street parking space. There is some relief given to this particular site. From a practical standpoint, and not wanting to exacerbate the city's parking situation, and hearing from the neighbors that parking is a pretty important issue to them, we are providing 6 off-street parking spaces, which we do not need to provide technically, and we're returning 1 on-street parking space that was taken away in the 1960s with the construction of the loading area. Now, to the location of the accessible parking space, it is in that spot because if we can go back to the layout plan, please. The accessible route from the parking spot to the new lobby area, which is sort of that constricted part of the building, we have an accessible route on the west side of the building, which we do not have on the east side because of the topography in that location. So the accessible route from parking to entrance will be basically where we're showing the accessible parking space. It just happens to be the easiest one to get in and out of.
And Ben had mentioned, you had mentioned that these are compact spaces, but not classically a compact.
They're not technically compact spaces. They are 8.5 feet in width, 18 feet in length. So a standard parking space, but the compactness comes from the urban context of the 10-foot alley that is currently serving the neighbors to this site and will serve the future residents here as well, which we're widening to 15.5 feet.
Okay. And last quick question on my part is, you had said that you're also reducing the impervious area?
We are reducing the impervious area. The entire site, much of it, more than 50% of it, is covered by building area currently. On the West Walnut Street side, there is currently concrete paving all the way up to the building facade. But as you can see, the building is set back from the right-of-way. We're returning much of that to green space. The other areas surrounding the building were all bricked when it was a schoolyard. In some cases, the brick is showing through, as in that northeast part of the site along North Mary Street. In other cases, in the rear yard that we saw from the Google images, it looks like a grassy area, but in fact, there's brick just an inch or two down under debris that's collected and soils formed over decades, but it's currently bricked as well. Even if we don't include those sort of hidden bricked areas where we just take credit for the brick that we know is there because it's on the surface, we're reducing, I believe, from 77% impervious coverage to 73%.
Admirable, thank you. So those are my questions. Are there comments or questions from other members of the commission?
I had a question for you, John. Did you see the recommendation for limiting to 16.5 feet for a car width length? That was recommended by staff.
That was not shared with me.
Okay. What are
That does impact our ability to reuse. It sounds like a foot should be relatively easy to accommodate. However, the portion of the building, that warehouse building that we're retaining, once it gets any narrower, it really cuts down on the viability of creating a unit in that location. And another foot of shifting those three western spaces closer to the existing honey locust tree. I met with Shade Tree Commission just last week, and this is sort of a balancing of various goals and objectives. And so we felt 15.5 feet sort of created that balance. It allowed us to preserve a tree, which is important to that commission, also important to me, and allowed us to adaptively reuse more of the existing structure.
Sorry, just for clarification, it wasn't a change in the way that the site plan is laid out. It's more of a signage that would restrict the length of the vehicles to
I misunderstood. I'm
16.5
sorry.
feet, right?
I thought
Okay.
you were saying create an access drive that is 16.5 feet prior
no.
to, okay, apologies.
Leaving the
And-
alley
and
length at 10 plus the
Staff's shaking their head
5.5.
as well, so that's not,
So we are talking about restricting the vehicle length, not increasing the overall width of the access drive.
Correct.
And I think as much as I hate signage clutter, I think we could agree to provide some signage related to that. As a resident, I think that's something that I could also convey to other residents that, hey, I'm sorry, your Cadillac Escalade is going to have to find some other.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Are you planning on having like one spot assigned per unit, or you probably won't have enough?
We have 7 units and 6 off-street parking spaces. As the way this is structured, that the developer is sort of 3-pronged, and we each at the end of this will get 1 unit, and the other 3 units will work with someone such as Chestnut Housing, who works in the space of working with folks with housing and security. There are still lots of details that need to be worked out in terms of how that's structured and who gets what parking space. So at this point, I don't have a definitive answer for you on that in that regard, but I think it certainly makes sense that spaces be assigned and someone uses the same space day in and day out and understands how to safely navigate those
Yeah, I guess that
turns.
was kind of what I was asking. Okay,
I think that makes sense.
thank you.
thank you. Other comments or questions from the commission, members of the commission? Other comments or questions? Oh, please. Oh, other comments or questions from the public? Anything else that you needed to share? Anything else that you wanted to clarify at the staff level?
Yeah, Yeah, I just wanted to clarify on the vehicle size, we were matching the dimensions that were shown in the turning movement diagrams that were provided just to make sure that can be approved. I guess we saw three mechanisms to addressing the concern. First, if it were restricted to that 16.5 feet, that could be a note included in the land development plan that then would be enforced on the property. That could be kind of challenging to enforce, but if it's the same tenants, it might be a bit more simple. Other idea was to provide just compact vehicle space signage at the parking spaces themselves to clear up any confusion. Or then I guess the third mechanism would be to provide some sort of protection along the building on Mary Street to protect the wall of that structure, such as bollards or something else. So we saw kind of three solutions to the concerns that we had raised on the staff level.
So are those conditions that are being requested to be included
Yeah.
with such an approval?
We would recommend that Traffic Commission approve the item, but consider some of those conditions, whether they restrict the length of the vehicles accessing the property, or designating them as compact vehicle spaces, or providing some sort of protection along the building.
If I may, we would accept the first of those conditions that was brought up by Betsy in terms of signage. I do not want all 6 parking spaces to be technically restricted to compact vehicles. And if there's an issue with our neighbor to the south, because people aren't navigating this safely and securely, we will address that. But I do not want that to be a condition of this approval. The city's housing plan specifically talks about the need for redeveloping blighted properties for affordable housing. And it's things such as these conditions that get in the way of that. We need to be cognizant of balancing various needs and enabling some of these projects to move forward. So I will agree to the condition of restricting the vehicle length, but not to the other conditions.
Is there comments or questions or further discussion at the commission level?
I just had another question, Ben. On the recommendation for the bollards, how much space would that then take up from the back of that building? Because he's adding in, like it's a 10-foot alley right now, he's adding in 15.5 feet or 5.5 feet, so it's at 15.5. But what would a bollard do to then restrict that?
Yeah, I imagine it would take up probably about a foot along the side of the building. So that could become a challenge if your public right-of-way is only 9 feet wide, not typically suitable for a vehicle to travel on.
Okay, thanks. And then, John, I had just another question for you. I understand that's not a condition that you're interested in. What other options, like if something were to occur that like in your mind would be available to, work with 242 Mary?
I'm open to having discussions and incorporating something on their facade if a problem were to occur, but I'd rather not start at that point. And because there is a width to any sort of a barrier and a buffer that they might not want in their building, and the folks using our parking spaces would have even a tighter space in which to navigate.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to imagine. Like if there's bollards there, how much is that then going to impact the improvements we're seeing to the alley by, removing that structure?
It's something we've given a lot of thought to, and one of the reasons behind our discussion on May 2nd with our neighbors. The alley has served the residents of this neighborhood for a long time at a 10-foot width. Mm-hmm. And so there's precedent for it working, and I think we could make ours work as well.
Thank you.
Are there situations, Ben, that we're aware of where with this level of restriction, bollards have been placed to protect the adjacent building?
I'd say that's a fairly frequent problem we run into on public alleys and narrow streets throughout the city, where we end up having to place bollards beside buildings or have property owners go and construct those themselves. It's hard to say whether that would be a challenge in this particular location. And it's definitely come up before. The change I think we saw in the land use here is that there's perpendicular parking off of the alley where that hadn't been available in the past. So vehicles backing into the alley was the concern.
Other comments or questions here at the commission level?
Sorry, I had one more for you, Ben. When that has occurred, like what's the city's ability to enforce or to require that bollard to be installed?
Sure. So we've come through the Traffic Commission previously for similar issues related to that, such as restricting vehicle size that accesses the alley. Typically, if the bollard is just installed without restricting vehicle size, that solves the issue on its own.
Okay. Do you think, is there some type of condition that, John, you would be open to that we could put on the land development plan in addition to that, if there's future issues? Open to suggestions.
If there's a problem, we'll want to address it. We want to be a good neighbor. So however we can word that to make it work, yes, I think we're open to that.
Ben or Emma, do you have any recommendations on phrasing?
I think what we had considered in the memo was a specific note on the land development plan restricting vehicles from the parking area to be 16.5 feet in length or shorter. That was the main condition we were thinking of.
Okay.
Who was the recipient of the memo?
The Traffic Commission themselves.
Okay.
So you had not received the memo? A way would be to think about having it reviewed by you so that it can be either responded to and/or alternatives explored that address the intent of the concerns of protecting the adjacent property.
I would have liked to have had that opportunity prior to this meeting. Because you only meet every 2 months, I don't want to put off this discussion or continue this discussion in September. We need to keep this process moving forward. If it comes down to a note on the plan saying that if there are complaints from our neighbor to the south, we will, in good faith, work with that neighbor and with the city to find a solution.
Could we possibly just, because I agree, I know you've been to numerous meetings, as I've seen you in many of them over the last year, I guess now. Could we just put a condition on the approval today saying that like the exact wording will be worked out related to the recommendation during the land development process? Would that be an acceptable condition? Or
We've done something similar to that in the past.
Yes, we've done things with tentative, give a tentative approval with, where it's subject to, conditions afterwards, modifications.
So yes, we can do something like that.
Okay.
That works.
Sure.
Are there other comments or questions from the commission? Other comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, are we willing to make a motion?
I'll make the motion for, what number are we on? 30-2026, that we recommend approval of the proposed depressed curb removal, and that we recommend approval of the proposed addition of the 6 off-street parking spaces with direct access onto a public alley with conditions related to the length of the vehicle and potential issues with adjacent property owners, and that those items be finalized during the land development process.
Both items be addressed during the land development process, or just the building protection issue?
I think we can have if we do the exact wording for both during land development, I think that would that be acceptable? Or do you want me to do the 16.5?
Sorry, no, I think leaving it vague is fine, just with approval of the city engineer for any of those comments.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, with approval of the city engineer on those comments.
There's
Thank
a
you.
motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second,
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion at the commission? Any further discussion at the public level? And John, is that addressing the concerns as you've raised them? Having heard that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries with as amended, as described by Betsy. Thank you very much. The next item on the action agenda is item 31-2026, considering the request of Diana Rose to add a traffic light at West King Street and North Pine Street. Ms. Rose?
Thank you. I reside at 520 West King Street. I have been a resident since June of 2024. In that time, my family, which is myself, my husband, and my 6-year-old child, we have witnessed over 4 major, meaning police have been called and lanes have been closed down, accidents. I'm also here to represent some neighbors who are not able to come. They've lived there for 9 years, so I have a statement from them as well. My proposal or my consideration was for a stoplight at Pine Street, but that is kind of the bigger issue. I did hear from Ms. Ham that there have been several quick fixes that have been put in place. So, excuse me, you can see that the bollards are there at Mary Street for the pedestrian crosswalk, which is great.
And when, do you know when the bollards were put up?
They were at spring of 2022, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that correct? Yeah. And then the main issue that we have is really that curve that's there. And there's a few things, and forgive me if I read from my phone, but I just want to make sure that I have everything because I'm here on behalf of others. The biggest challenge of this intersection is not actually the intersection itself, but the curve just west of Mary Street. And you can kind of see we're at the curve right at this spot. It makes it very challenging for King Street drivers who cannot gauge and drive too fast for the severity of the curve, as well as Mary Street drivers and crossing pedestrians who cannot easily see the oncoming traffic. This is the statement from my neighbors. It's Isaiah Martin and Kylie Lehman. They're at 518 West King. They live there with their 2 young daughters as well. We've lived at 500 block of West King for almost 9 years. Since living here, we've witnessed at least a dozen accidents occur around the intersection of Mary and King. Because there are no slowdown measures between College Avenue and Charlotte, cars regularly speed down King, especially at the left-hand curve, right before the intersection with Mary, hitting the gas to speed down the stoplight at Charlotte. So what they're saying is really people, when they're on the left-hand lane, that is one of the biggest issues because when they're going around that curve, they don't realize how severe it is. They end up veering off, and many of them have sideswiped, actually, yeah, they've sideswiped other cars that are over there. It's actually my car right there. So that's one of the big challenges. We have a lot of sideswipe incidents, but they have said they have seen other issues of cars actually flipping over. The last incident that we were witness to, a car's wheel actually came off. It was that severe. We've had cars ramming into other cars and pushing into some of the electrical posts. And then we actually, our neighbors who are to the east of us on Mary Street, on the corner of Mary, they had a car pushed into their residence. So it's a pretty bad spot. My neighbors and I were really pleased to hear that you guys have been looking into some of the calming initiatives. I know that you mentioned the speed humps and there's been talk of making King Street and I think several others in the city 2-way again, but we know that that's much more long-term. And so we're looking for some things to, in the meantime, help with the accidents that continue to occur. Some of the measures that we are looking for right now in discussing with my neighbors, I don't know if you can quite see it here, but outside of the addresses of, I think it's 5, Yeah, 519 and 515 West King. There are lovely neighbors, they're businesses, but there's a no parking sign that's there and people regularly park there. And that's definitely making it difficult for people to see the severity of the curve, as well as seeing cars that are coming through on Mary, and making it difficult for pedestrians, I think, to see too. It's an issue for students that are coming home from school. We've definitely seen some near misses with some school students coming home from Reynolds. So we're hoping, one thing is that we could also see bollards placed at the no parking spaces that are there, because we have regularly called people when we see them parked to have the police come and have them removed. But if we had bollards there, I think that would help solve that problem with the visibility. The other thing that we were wondering if is a possibility is to have some sort of slow down sign. I know that there are, before the crosswalk, there are kind of the indication of slowing down there, but that's after that curve. So if there's some way to create something, I don't know, a slow down sign, something that measures people's speed, because it's 25 miles per hour, but people are going 50 sometimes. So yeah, and then my proposal is to consider a stoplight at Pine Street, just because that will also, I know it's very difficult for people to make their way across King safely there, going down to Dorwart, to Old Dorwart. So if that's a possibility, but I know, again, that's a much longer study. So yeah, these are the things that I would like to ask.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Are there other comments or questions from you and from the other residents nearby that you wanted to share with us and make sure we're...
That's it right now.
Okay. This is a case where you were able to study the situation as well?
Yes, so we took a review beforehand, and I want to preface this again by saying this is an area of concern for us, especially where Columbia Avenue becomes King Street, becomes 1 lane to 2 lanes, then people can pass and you start having speeding challenges, which we've heard about again and again and again at this particular intersection. I think 2 years ago now, we went on a walkthrough with Reynolds Middle School students to identify areas of concern, and this was one of the intersections they also flagged as being concerned about. King and Mary in specific, but King and Pine goes kind of hand in hand with these issues. We have 2 projects that we're looking at to solve this challenge. We are looking to add speed humps along West King Street once it enters the city. Those would be 2 sets between, I guess, where Ruby Street comes in and Pine Street, so just before the curve, adding edge lines to the street to kind of visually narrow it and hopefully slow vehicles down as they approach that curve. We can certainly look at the quick build treatments. It was on the left side, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Right at the curve.
And can you just...
Side, so it's in front of 515 and 519 West King.
Thank you.
And can you describe what quick build might be in a situation
Sure.
like this?
Yes. It would be the paint and posts like that you see at Mary Street to hatch out those no parking areas. Perfect. We can certainly look at that in the very near term. I think in the short term, we are looking at our speed hump project to move forward, which just requires permitting through PennDOT, but it aligns with the recent guidance they've put out as well. So we would be looking for that within a 1 to 2 year time frame to make those changes. And then in the longer term, 4 to 5 years, this is one of the first phases we're expecting of the two-way restoration project, where we'd be restoring King Street to 2-way on the west end, and that would eliminate those passing opportunities, slow vehicle traffic, and that would also be coupled with other traffic calming improvements that are to be determined at this point. So for the signal request, or for a traffic light at the intersection, we were recommending denial of that, just because it is a problem, but a traffic signal likely isn't the best fit for this intersection. There's very specific guidance, stricter than always stops, that we have to follow for implementation of a traffic signal, and it's also a very large expense to put that in. So we are looking for those near-term treatments to move forward and can continue to update you on this. I think this was heard recently in a couple of meetings ago about King and Mary in specific, but definitely an area we're looking to make changes on. Yeah, Emma had mentioned signage changes that we could look at in the near term as well. I think if we're putting in flex posts at the intersection, we could also look at the signs at the intersection to see if those are still in accordance with our current standards, such as the curve warning signage, the yellow chevrons you see right there, and make sure that those are really up to snuff.
Thank you very much. When you were talking about the quick build and the speed bumps, were you saying that quick build and speed bumps would be 2 years out, or is there anything that would be done immediately or shortly
So
even before the speed bumps?
I see the changes of the paint and posts, what we would call quick build, and also the signage changes to be something we can definitely look at in the nearer term. We can evaluate that right after this meeting, and over the next couple of months, have that done by staff. The speed hump changes, that would be the longer term, 1 to 2 years, and then two-way restoration would be the even longer term,
Right.
4 to 5 years.
We have the slow down program. Is how, if at all, might that apply in a situation like this?
So with the neighborhood slow zone program, that's not targeted at these streets. With that program, we excluded all of these, what we call arterial streets that carry large volumes of traffic through the city. That's focused on more so the interior of neighborhoods, really where people are traveling slow, playing in the street, doing all kinds of things. On this street, we'd be looking for improvements much more robust than what we're looking at as a part of that program, to really ensure that we're addressing the safety issues here. And the timelines are always of concern. These projects take a good bit of time to design, get permitted, and get funding to install. But we are moving as quickly as we can on this particular issue.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from the commission? Are there enforcement issues that we need to be aware of? I mean, one of the things that was raised, for instance, was that there's a no parking zone that's not honored. And you've been assiduously calling police whenever people are parking incorrectly.
I think as far as enforcement, it would certainly be good to look at vehicle speeds as they're traveling through there and also enforce those no parking areas.
Other comments or questions at the level of the commission? Comments or questions from the public? Ms. Rose, are there other comments that you'd like to make? How is what Ben has been recommending been addressing your concerns?
It's great. I think because I know this is a challenging street, because I've also been in touch with PennDOT too, because I know it gets complicated with King Street. The one thing that I would ask is if there's some way to communicate to the residents on those blocks what's going on in the timeline, because I think a lot of people were interested to know that I was coming, and they just want to know what's going on because there are so many very severe accidents that are happening there. That's all.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that. We have not done any engagement related to the speed hump project that I discussed. For the larger two-way restoration project and our larger capital projects, if you go on our website, engage.cityoflancasterpa.gov, that's where we really promote and ask for public feedback on our projects. But as we're looking for those short-term improvements here, we can certainly put up maybe door hangers on each property when it would come before the Traffic Commission to actually make those improvements so that they're aware and can raise these issues with us. Can you speak to that?
Yep. So as we're working through some of the details of the two-way restoration project, we're also looking to hold an open house that will sort of run the gamut of all the transportation projects, because some people might be, we might have 2 or 3 transportation projects near where you live. So in November, we are looking at a Vision Zero open house. Typically, those have been held at the library for two-way restoration. We might be looking to have them more in the neighborhoods, but definitely encourage you to look out for information about that open house. And we do try and flyer when there's, sort of a compact area. It's a little bit harder on two-way restoration just because it's sort of the whole length of the city. But I think, Ben's following Engage Lancaster. We have project updates on there. Thank you.
I do have another question, follow-up question to Ben and Emma. This area was also considered part of the high injury network, and once upon a time, I thought we were talking about a study of this of this proximate area and its series of blocks. What I'm hearing now, and correct me if I'm wrong or correct me when I'm wrong, that that has become now not only the safe part of Safe Streets for All, but also the two-way restoration, not necessarily a focus on this set of intersections. Am I understanding that correctly?
I would say yes. We reevaluated the high injury network that was done back in 2020, just last year, and this is certainly still on the high injury network, this area in particular. This project to address the high injury network concerns has kind of morphed into the two-way restoration project, which would address many of those safety concerns that led to it being on our high injury network. We are certainly putting a lot of attention on this particular area. I would say the area bounded by Marietta, King, and Orange, to really focus improvements on that western segment because that's where we see a lot of those crashes occur.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from the commission? Anything else from the public or from Ms. Rose? Hearing none, are we willing to, someone willing to make up a motion?
We'll make a motion to deny 31/2026 at this time.
There's a motion, is there a second? There's not a second?
I guess I'll second that for discussion.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? And if so, what would that be?
Yeah, just wondering, obviously we're denying the request for the street light, but should we add a condition that
Quick build?
yeah, that the quick build is installed per the discussion?
I think that's a good point. I think that would be handled administratively after the meeting. And let's definitely connect. I'll get you my contact info, and then we can give you updates as our project progresses as well.
And with that could be added to with a schedule or a broader schedule of what the other improvements are likely to be for communication purposes.
We can definitely provide that. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, and because it's administrative, we don't need that condition.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you very, very much, and if you don't have his contact information, he'll make sure you have it.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you very much, Ms. Rose. Next item on the action agenda, item 32-2026, consider the request of the Department of Public Works to add on-street metered parking on the south side of East Marion Street from North Christian to Duke Street. That's the passage from North Christian to Duke Street that we're right here next to. Ben, are you making this presentation?
Yeah, so you should have received in your packet plans for what we're planning to do with this on this block, right in front of City Hall here. The issue we've observed in the past is there's a shortage of parking in this area where city staff and others will frequently park in the area that's designated no parking. We took a comprehensive look at this block, a few of the safety challenges we observed as well, such as dumpster placement along the block, some of the restricted areas like the Verizon building, they have a designated loading zone there. And what we've really come up as our best recommendation here is to turn this into what's considered a yield street, where it's too narrow for two vehicles to pass side by side, kind of what you would see on East Frederick Street maybe, where you have parking on both sides of the street, and it leads to a really calm, low speed environment. So what we're proposing here is that the Traffic Commission approve on-street metered parking on the south side of East Marion Street. And that would also be used by city employees to park city vehicles during the day throughout their business. And then outside of the hours of City Hall, anybody could also use those metered parking spaces, such as visiting Marion Court or other businesses around the area.
And do you have clarity at the moment about the hours of which kinds of restrictions?
So there would be no restrictions on the metered parking. That would just be your typical enforcement. I believe it's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Weekdays and Saturday. Just standard metered parking, but we think the occupancy of it would be low enough that it could also be used by City Hall employees and city vehicles, as they're allowed to park in metered spaces as well. So we think that would be a good alternative to provide parking for Marion Court and others to be able to legally use that space, and then also benefit Lancaster Parking Authority and being able to enforce those restrictions. Either end of the block, kind of outside the scope of Traffic Commission, we'd be restricting parking at the intersections to kind of do that intersection daylighting to provide sight lines, and also room for vehicles to pull off and yield to one another on the street.
Thank you very much. And am I correct that this was also, there were discussions with some of the adjacent neighboring property owners?
Yes, so we've coordinated with Marion Court, Verizon, and also Lancaster Parking Authority to make sure that this suits all of them and provides the best safety benefit.
Thank you very much for that, Ben. I'm just going to add as well that many of you in this room may not recognize the nature of the challenge in front of, on this particular block, but with the loading zones, with the narrowness of the street, with the disclarity of the parking requirements, and without the signage, it's often very difficult. Sometimes people coming in or out of City Hall cannot come in because they're blocked by certain of the vehicles that are here, and at certain hours of the day, it has become something of a free-for-all without any clarity or guidance about how it gets maintained. So I'm, for one, am welcoming the recommendation. Are there any further comments or questions by members of the Traffic Commission?
Just a quick question. Are you also going to stripe both sides as part
Yes.
of that plan?
Yep, so you would have the perpendicular striping for the metered spaces, and then where we restrict parking near the intersections, we would have paint indicating that and posts at some of those intersections as well.
Okay. And how many spaces are you anticipating getting from that?
In total, we would be adding 6 metered parking spaces.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, we're willing to entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve 32/2026 with the addition of 6 metered parking spaces on the south side of East Marion Street.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, Ben, for that recommendation and
Thank you.
for the work that went into that. The next item, we're almost done, and we've gotten through a huge amount of stuff on this. Item 33-2026, consider the request of Ben Morton to present land development plans for 210 College Avenue. Ben?
Yes, hello, I'm Ben Morton with RGS Associates doing the site planning for this project that's being spearheaded by HCC Mid-Atlantic. Abigail Evans from HCC is with me here tonight if there were any questions that would need to go to the owner. And they're working in collaboration with Milagro House to convert the DELP wing of the UPMC Lancaster St. Joe's Hospital into 49 units of multifamily housing, as well as 20 units of supportive housing that also has an additional resident staff unit.
I'm sorry, Ben, that's 40 plus 20?
49 plus 20 plus 1.
Excellent,
yeah.
thank you.
And so, this was, certain things have happened here as part of the market rate development at 250 College Avenue, which comprises the rest of the block. There, on the existing conditions plan you're seeing there, we highlighted 2 access drives, and this is rotated 90 degrees such that College Avenue is running horizontally on the bottom. North is to the right-hand side of the screen. The access drive closest to Marietta Avenue is still there, and one that it was there in sort of the pre-existing condition. The one that's farther up the block was actually constructed by the 250 College Avenue project with the intention of serving both that project as well as the parking that's located underneath the DELP wing building. And as part of the, it was either the initial subdivision of the properties or, but no, it would have been part of the 250 College Avenue plans. An access easement was established granting the right for vehicles, residents at the HDC property to utilize that more mid-block, sort of modern design access drive. So, and as part of that, they actually closed another existing access drive that had provided direct access under the Delp wing. So as we're moving forward now with the project, the idea is to close that remaining drive that's close to Marietta Avenue with sort of several benefits. And if you go to the other sheet in this plan, there you go. Does a combination of things. It actually allows us to provide a few additional parking spaces below the building, just given turning movements and some of the dimensional challenges we had with aisles. It, you know, gets rid of a vehicular pedestrian conflict point on the sidewalk, as well as a vehicular conflict point being, you know, really that drive was coming out where you already have the left turn lane on College Avenue. And then also creates an opportunity for some additional on-street parking spaces. I will say we struggled a little bit to quantify how many spaces it is because they're not actually metered here and they're not striped off, and we're not sure quite how far city staff will be envisions that the parking continues towards Marietta Avenue. So we were documenting this just as illustrating the area that we view as being an additional area available for on-street parking. So, you know, kind of some history here as well. We got some necessary zoning approval back in October of 2024 and then went through the PHFA funding process and then really got moving on this again in January of this year. Did review this design with city staff as part of a sketch plan in March and submitted the land development plans at the beginning of June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to share with us about?
I don't think so, but happy to answer any questions that come up.
Okay. This is also one where staff has done a review?
Yes, we provided the memo that's in your packet. We're recommending approval of this. Like Ben mentioned, less conflict points for pedestrians and bicyclists, more on-street parking. It's a net negative, or sorry, net positive for the block.
And as far as the extent of the southern end of the zone of parking, it's irrelevant as far as you're concerned in terms of? Yeah. Right. Any further comments or questions from the commission? Any further comments or questions from the public? Anything further, Ben, that you wanted to share?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we're willing to entertain a motion.
Well, we'll make a motion to approve 33-2026.
I'll second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The motion carries. Thank you, Ben. I hope you like us, Lori, because you stayed with us. Considering the request of Lori Alskog of SCTA to add RRTA bus stop on College Avenue and West James Street. Lori?
Yes. Good afternoon. Lori Alskog from South Central Transit. We operate the Red Rose Transit system here in Lancaster County. I submitted, I didn't have a memo, but just my email, as it states, we wanted to request the installation of a bus stop on College Avenue just north of James Street. So where the red star is. Previously, Route 2 had traveled along West James Street, so we had a bus stop there on the right side of the photo. So people along the College Avenue could just access that bus stop there. When we changed our routes, we no longer travel there on James, but we still travel on College. So we had been requested by one of our riders to have a stop located here on College just past James. This photograph doesn't show it, and if you go to the street view, it's not current. So you don't have to go to the street view. It's not current on Google, showing that daylighting has been installed on College south of James and also on the north side of James. So that was discussion that I had with Cindy McCormick, whether we could install a stop there with the daylighting, the bollards being there. I mean, there is enough room between the bollards that a wheelchair could fit, so there's no restrictions there. It's just that we prefer our buses to pull to the curb, so that when we have the buses kneel and deploy the ramps, that they are fully accessible. So this, having the daylighting there, at least right now, we would still be able to stop in lane. We do that at other locations. And so have the stop there, the bus can still kneel, and the ramp, it's a little bit steeper than it normally would, but it would still be, I believe, accessible there. As my memo also stated, we were talking about that maybe in the future this could be a location where a permanent bump out would be installed, and then it could allow the bus to stop in lane, but it would be at the curb there. So that would accomplish more permanently. I mean, the delineators are permanent, but with concrete at that location. So I just mentioned that because Cindy and I did discuss that. I don't know that there are any further plans about that. Obviously, funding would be involved for that, but in the near term, to have a stop here, again, as my memo stated, the nearest stops are north up on New Street, and then actually back on West Lemon, in front of the middle school.
So New Street is 2 or 3 blocks north.
Yes.
West Lemon is 1 block south.
And then the stop is actually a little bit back further on Lemon. So it's not right at College and Lemon, because if you come up there and make the right.
You come up, you go west on Lemon,
And then
north.
yes.
Make the right, and you're coming from south of James.
You're west on Walnut.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're at Walnut.
That's
there.
what I thought.
That's where your bus stop is at.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I'm sorry. I had that wrong in my memo, and
That would-
I was,
yeah.
as we were talking about West Walnut earlier, I was just thinking I had that incorrect. Yeah, on Walnut there. So, and it's a little farther back than we would like, because of the on-street parking and then the angled parking too. So, and the rider had indicated, and I guess this is true, that there's a little bit of a hill if you're coming from Harrisburg Ave up towards James Street.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the mobility of this person. I think that was a concern as well. But he had requested, again, putting a stop here. And I do think, since we took away the one at James, that this would be a suitable location, to keep stops every few blocks within the city.
And just for my own clarification, the bus to arrive at this particular stop is coming north on College. It's not coming west on James and turning.
Correct. We only travel north and south on College Avenue now. And there would be a paired stop already existing on southbound College. There's a location there, there's a sign stop, and there is, as you can see it in there, a bike share station as well.
Yep. Anything further that you wanted to share with us?
No, that's everything.
Last report, I think.
Definitely, yes. So we provided you a memo on this. We are recommending Traffic Commission approve the new bus stop location. We are glad that it can be provided without removing the existing pedestrian protections that are in place. There should be an updated photo of what it looks like currently in that memo that we sent over. So we're able to shorten that pedestrian crossing distance by, I think, 16 feet. And our long-term goal is to definitely convert that to a permanent concrete curb extension, similar to what we just put in at Queen and Farnham. So that buses can stop in lane and have an ADA compliant stop for pedestrians to access the curb.
comments or
I have
questions?
considerations,
Yes.
concerns. Have you made any considerations for the right-hand turn onto College Avenue off of James Street if you do a permanent bump out there?
Yeah, so we'll certainly check turning movements there. The reason we were able to provide the daylighting that we currently have is because the bus was the largest expected user of that street, and they stopped making that right-hand turn from James onto College. So when we got to the point of actually making those permanent improvements, we would certainly evaluate the turning movements of different vehicles and make sure they could safely make that turn.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from the commission regarding this proposal? Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, we're open to receive a motion for this.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve 30/2026.
34, 2026.
Second.
Or
Aye.
2026, sorry.
There's been a motion,
Second.
a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. And as per direction of the Public Works, we would coordinate with city staff to have a post and sign installed for the bus stop there.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Now we go to the consent agenda. Oh, public comments. There's a period for public comments. Are there people who want to make public comments? Hearing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Item 35-2026. Following items have been tentatively approved or installed in terms of handicap parking. And similarly, on item 36-2026, the following signs have been removed for handicap parking, no parking signs in load zone. 37-2026, the following conditional temporary parking permits have been issued by LPA, caregiver permits. And last, there's no temporary parking permits asked for continuance. So we can entertain a motion for
Yeah.
any or all.
We'll consolidate everything into one motion, 35/2026, 36/2026, 37/2026, and 38/2026 to be approved.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Is there any additional business that we need to be aware of? I will, if hearing none, I'm willing to hear a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes. You'd be seconding.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting has been adjourned. Thank you very, very much for a successful,
Oh, my God.
raucous,
I need to stay.
issue-filled traffic commission.
It's going to be a long evening for me.
I know.
Yes. You're welcome.
I'd like for us to have a little
I
bit
have
of
a
break
question.
in between.
Yeah, geez, you're not kidding.